Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. I'm Katie and we have an UpCrate unboxing and creating. If I'm honest with you, I feel like this box has sneaked up on me this month. It doesn't seem like 5 minutes ago since I did the last one. Anyway, let's talk about the contents. Well, of course we have the battle post, and of course this month's print is absolutely adorable. The artist is Calon Sardin, I think. But it is such a cute little print and I really quite like their style. So let's talk about the contents of the January UpCrate 2021. We have 3 bottles of calligraphy ink by, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation here, but it's Rora and Klinger. I hope I've said that right. I have seen these inks before and never used them, but I've always wanted to try them, so I'm really happy about that. We have a Koh-i-Noor Hardtmuth 4H pencil. We have a Claire Fontaine paint on pad, and it's got this gorgeous sandy colour to it, which I quite like. And as well, to go with these inks, we have the Speedball 6 metal brushes and 1 holder, but we've actually got 2, but that's what it says in the book, so I don't know what's gone on there. And these are dip pens. Now, I've used dip pens before. I quite like the glass ones. For some reason, I don't have to be quite as conscientious as to how I'm holding the pen, but I haven't used a metal tipped one for quite a long time, so it was actually quite nice to get a set of these and some lovely inks to use them with. As we mentioned, and I don't know enough about these to go into the full details about what each nib does, but there are 6 different ones, and again, down to my lack of personal experience using them, all I could tell you was some with big nibs and some with little nibs. Some you could press down and create some thicker lines, and you'll see all of this on screen in front of you. And some of them didn't want to do that at all and were a bit scratchy. But overall, not a bad experience. Like I say, I've not used these for a long time and maybe I'm not using them right. The ink comes in 3 colours. We have a red, a black and a sepia. And once they've dried on the page, I did go over them in some water to see if they would come back to life, and they don't. And I also applied them with a brush that is not included in this box because, by heck, that is my plan B. This month's UpCrate battle is titled Unexpected Friends, and I could not think of a better pairing of friends than Claudia and Finley. Lovely lot, you'll know exactly who I'm on about. So, as a bit of a rarity here, I thought I would sketch this out right in front of you guys as far as I could without having to tilt the page and go all weird angles. I think the scaling's okay on this, and I think with it being a smaller piece and it's not going to be as intricate as other pieces that I do, I thought, yeah, I'll share this process with you guys and you get to see the pencil in action. I thought a nice portrait of Finley with Claudia placed upon her head holding a little clamshell would be a perfect pose for these two. And once all of that was sketched out, it was time to start inking everything in. So I started off by using one of the big nibs, and it was one of the better ones out of the group. Again, I can't really decide what on a grand scale of things what difference each one makes. And after swatching them earlier and continuously having to change the nibs to do that, I decided, well, one pen can have the big nibs and the other pen can have the little nibs. I'll decide on one of each and not worry too much about having to change them over, because it's a pain, if I'll be honest. I think that the idea is you pick your favourite nibs and you kind of stick with them. Or I should perhaps put it, you should pick the most appropriate one, but I'm not experienced enough to know what that's about. I'm really insecure about this, aren't I? Anyway, it is outlining time, and I thought let's get some of those lovely flowing lines a little bit reminiscent of the last video I've popped up. This seems to be my thing at the moment. I didn't want to commit to it being as an Art Nouveau style, just purely because these pens could be a little bit unpredictable, and on a smaller scale it's just not quite practical enough, again, using these pens and getting used to them. I just wanted to keep it as simple as possible. It's kind of weird using these compared to a glass nib because the ink stays forever in those. I don't know if you guys have ever used one before. I can't say that the one I've got's a particularly fancy one. It was one that was £1 off Wish, and I bought it a couple of years ago, and it's fine, it's not broken or anything, and I do enjoy using it. Whereas these, it's hard to describe, and I'm not sure if it is the nibs on the pens or the fact that the paper we have is a little bit on the toothy side. As a mixed media paper, it's gorgeous and I really like the colour. However, I don't think the paper really likes the sharp point of the fountain pen, and I found that I was struggling doing certain gestures with it, because I'd go in one direction and it would be fine, but for example, perhaps drawing a curve or something with a slight angle to it, oh my days, that nib just wanted to dig straight in the paper. And I was trying not to be heavy-handed with this as well, but the constant threat of it gouging in the paper and then splattering all up the page, that was a very real possibility. So yeah, I had to take my time with this and get to know this particular application method, we'll say. What do you guys think of these dip pens? Have you got any experience of using them? Or if you're an UpCrate subscriber and you've had them, what did you think of them, on your first impressions? I'm kind of sitting on the fence with them at the moment. I think I might need to try them on a smoother paper, maybe a Bristol board or a very smooth surfaced cartridge paper. I think, again, the colour of this paper is really nice and I think it was very nicely put together. I just think the texture just wasn't quite right. I think if I was painting the ink on, which I do eventually do, it applies beautifully, it's really nice, but I don't know, a bit too toothy for the pens, so I think I might have to explore these further on other surfaces. Anyway, as I've mentioned, I do succumb to using the paintbrush, and that is one of my own. And as soon as I started using that, I felt a little bit more comfortable using these inks. I did find, however, that the sepia colour that is included, it's weird. It doesn't really stand out all that differently from the black on this surface. I think because it's quite a pigmented ink, then it's going to show up really dark, especially on a toned paper, and I think that's why there's not much of a differentiation between the two. However, when it came to using them with a brush and slightly diluting them, perfect for adding some tonal variations on Finley's skin. I must admit though, another thing I noticed about this paper, and it was a little bit confusing at times, was even if I just added clean water on there, it changed the tone of the paper. And I guess when you're so used to using white paper all the time for inking and watercolours, etc., you don't notice the effect that it has on the page. But for some reason on toned paper, yeah, I'd put the water down and be like, oh, that kind of looks one colour already, and then I'd go in there with that ink and I'd be like, has it made any difference or not? So I would have to wait quite a lot for it to dry. On the other hand though, for some reason this paper dries really quickly, and that was nice. It kind of lent itself to be able to create nice layering techniques and textures. And although I didn't go massively on the textures using the brush, it was quite nice to add some more depth in there by going over areas more than once. And once I'd figured that when the paper got wet and it changed colour slightly, once I'd got over that and I could gauge it, yeah, I kind of quite enjoyed it. And despite the sepia sort of not hugely standing out from the black, unless it was diluted. I kind of liked the aged effect combined with the paper that it gave overall, and once I'd finished this, I'd kind of, I don't know, I kind of quite liked the direction it had gone in, and I don't know, maybe I should start trying some tinted papers and really experimenting. I also liked as well though, in contrast, how that red stood out, and I think it stood out really well as well. It could have been lost to that tone, even though it's only subtle, it could have gone. And I think maybe if we'd have had a yellow and a blue, I think it would have altered it too much and probably wouldn't be able to appreciate the colours as much. After a little bit more practice, I did manage to get some texture for where Finley's scales meet the top of her body, because I didn't want to just leave that floating. But again though, it was hard and I was pressing on quite lightly, but I don't know, just felt like even with these little tiny circles, it's like, oh gosh, if this point on this nib catches, I'm going to be in trouble. But as I progressed through this drawing, kind of, I don't know, kind of got the hang of it. I kind of learnt that if you pressed a little harder in one direction, the direction where it doesn't catch, you can create a nice thick line. And that is something I can't do with a glass pen, because if I press too hard, it's going to chip and it's going to be useless. So yeah, I suppose in a way, and I'm kind of waffling on and thinking out loud here, but in a way it's actually a nice new way for me to apply ink, where it's not just a brush and it's not just the glass pen. I can just go straight in there with these with a bit more practice. Now, if there was just something extra that I wanted from this box, I think maybe a white ink. It does mention in the UpCrate Post magazine that there is a white one available, and I think if we just had something to add a little bit of highlights, that would have made this box uber perfect. But it's a good box nonetheless. I just think a white would have really helped me make this character stand out. And imagine how, I mean, I'm not a calligrapher by any means, but imagine how unusual it would look having the white ink on this page as well, and doing this beautiful writing that I can only aspire to be able to do. I was also half tempted to cheat and get a white gel pen on this myself, but I thought, no, I've already used a brush that's not come in this box. I think I'd be pushing it a little bit with a white pen. But anyway, we're pretty much finished with this drawing now. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments, if you've had this box yourself, or what your thoughts are on the contents and what I've created with it. I've enjoyed it though. It was a nice surprise, even though I do expect UpCrate to land at this time, but it had just completely passed my mind. If you're wanting an UpCrate box yourself, I will leave a link in the description below, so please be sure to check that out. I just want to say a massive thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. There should be a few on screen now that you might enjoy, and I will see you lovely lot on the next video. Bye!